to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode, no freaking idea of the Art of War Down Under podcast. Once again, I am slamming, jamming, ramming these in to my schedule to get ahead and to get as many of these indexes locked in and reviewed as I can. As I'm recording this, which will tell you exactly when we're recording it, the first FAQs for 10th edition have just dropped with a bunch of points changes and a bunch of stuff therein. Unfortunately, that will have very little bearing, little to no bearing, in fact, on the faction that we are reviewing right now. I am joined by the Red Terror. No, that isn't a Tyranid name. That is Blood Angel's name. He's the Red Rage, the Black Terror, whatever. Of the Great White North. I've done a phenomenal job here. Mr. Sam Procopio is joining us, mate. Hopefully I got your surname right.
You did. You hit that right on the button, and you're one of few that can do it, so I appreciate you for that.
Fantastic. And of course, that means we are here to disseminate the Blood Angels Index.
Yes.
But man, this is going to be an interesting one. I have recorded Space Wars with the lovely Jaime Paris, and we fought tooth and nail to make that a positive experience for people. We'll see if we can do the same here, because we're not going to be down the bush. This isn't an index that's in a great place, or I believe that is designed well for this edition. But we're going to do what we can with it and tell you guys what you need to know, because despite all that, you still play the faction, don't you, mate?
I definitely do. They're my ride or die faction for sure, and I feel like there are definite ways to make this faction work still, although it's a bit different than maybe you would want them to be, which we're of course going to cover over the next little bit. But there is definitely still some play to this, and I'm always someone who looks at the glass half full. So let's make it work with the boys in red.
That's what we're going to do. If you are joining us for the first time, if you're a Blood Angels aficionado, enthusiast, or you're just new to Art of War Down Under, we are a review-based podcast. We are here to keep you informed to the best of our ability of what is happening in the great game of 40k from a top-level perspective, as good and as solid and as well-rounded a competitive perspective as I can get. My name is Adam Camilleri. I am joined by whatever guest and expert of said faction, said relevant content piece I can get. In this case, it is pretty, I don't know if there's much argument or as much competition, but suffice to say, possibly very likely the best Blood Angels player in the world in Sam, who's been lovely enough to join me for this one. We're going to be going through the Blood Angels Index with a fine-tooth comb, essentially reading the rule section virtually verbatim, discussing what is good and bad about said rule, whether it's applicable, how to use it, and then moving on. When we get to the data sheet section, I'll be leaning heavily on Sam's expertise, and he'll be taking us through the data sheets that are most relevant to the competitive styles of play that Blood Angels want to enact on the tabletop. Should you want the full second part of this episode, you can find it over at Art of War Down Under over on Patreon, where you can just sign up there for a couple of bucks, being $5, or I think it might be, whatever. It's a couple of bucks. You get the full second half of this show, which will be a Blood Angels Tactica with me and Sam. We're going to be writing a list or two of what Sam thinks will be the best place to start competitively with the faction, what they're good into, what they're bad into, how they want to play, etc., etc. Sam, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
I do. I have a YouTube channel, actually, Sanguinary40k. You guys can check me out there. I mean, I make content sporadically. I'm definitely someone who's a pretty busy bee, I like to say, and got a lot on the go. But anytime I can help my fellow, sons of Sanguinius out, I like to make a quick little review here and there. So I mean, you guys can go check that out, and stay tuned for more content in the future.
Beautiful. I really look forward to some of your 10th edition stuff, man. So jumping straight into this, we're not going to mince any words. What was your first impression of this index the first time you went cover to cover on it?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like a lot of people had a very different approach than I did. I feel like the approach I tried to go in with was just forget that ninth happened, and don't compare the two, because I feel like you would be quite disappointed if that was to be the case. And I've got constant messages online from all the fellow angels of blood from around the world, basically being like, "Come on, man, what happened to our +1 wound? What happened to this? What happened to that?" And if you take it at face value, I mean, you're definitely going to feel the big hit, I guess, in difference from how the army's playing on the table. But my first overall review of it was just the fact that, we're getting +1 strength and +1 attack in an edition where that's actually quite rare to get two attributes just thrown on like that with the +1 on each of those. And as you guys have seen the indexes across the board, I mean, if you guys have, take a gander. It's like there's not many attacks in close combat. Strength is not that high in close combat. So, I mean, they're still focusing on the fact that you can really build into a combat sort of functionality for your army to still give it that flavor and fluff. But like Adam and I, we spoke actually prior to the recording, there just seems to not really be the old way that we used to deliver ourselves to combat as efficiently, which obviously is like the big glaring outlier in this. And Adam, I know you know that better than anybody. When you're trying to get into combat, we need to make sure we actually get there.
Exactly right. Well, that's the thing. So, I mean, a lot has been said about the way 10th edition is being played, at least in this early index days. It's very heavily into the shooting focus, especially like psychic's been deleted, and the terms and conditions, the hoops you have to jump through to make the assault phase and the charge phase and the fight phase work. I mean, why go through those hoops when you can just use the gun? Use the great old gun.
100%.
It's just like, it seems like it's the path of least resistance. So the things that the enablers, the things that have to be able to be there to let you make the fight phase be the thing that carries you through the game has to be very strong. Now, I agree with you. I think the +1 strength, +1 attack is very strong. I don't love the rest of it, though. We'll unpack this whole package, and we'll talk about it as a package once we get through this detachment. But it's a very interesting thing to look at. I do really like the caveat you said at the start, mate, because if you go into this looking at like, well, here's the faction that just won the last LVO. Here's the faction that has been a powerhouse for the majority of the previous edition. And if you walk in with that, unfortunately, you are just walking into disappointment, and you are lying, open mouth, walking up to disappointment, being like, slap it in my face. So it's just hurt me with this disappointment, because it's going to bother you. But
for sure,
let's jump into the detachment rules. So this is the specific detachment for Blood Angels. Sons of Sanguinus naturally has to be Blood Angels only in this detachment. The red thirst is what you get. And as Sam has already said, each time an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army is selected to fight, if that unit made a charge move this turn, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strengths and attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by this in models in this unit. So if you were to compare that to what you had before, which was the first turn of combat all the time, charge or heroic, this one is just charged, and that used to be +1 to wound, now it's +1 attack, +1 strength. Let's that's the last time we're going to do that, Let's completely delete the 9th edition stuff and look at this on face value. My man, have you found this to be useful?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only experimented a couple of games, and I mean, into the best armies, of course, because that's kind of how I like to do this. It has not been the greatest. What I can say, however, when I do want to make it count, you definitely have to make sure that you're taking into account what units you're throwing into combat. So I mean, again, not trying to draw comparisons, like, your intercessors and your other chaff units are not going to hit like they used to. By far, which actually does add up and make a difference.
Yeah.
But what you can at least try and do is, if you do bring that combat brick, whether it's the 5-man Death Company, even a 10-man Death Company, or the 5-man Sanguinary Guard, which I've experimented with all three, what you can do is the +1 strength on the charge does actually go a long way, getting Sanguinary Guard up to strength 6. Without the fists, getting Death Company up to strength 9, and then that's when you can also employ the stratagem for the +1 to wound, which essentially gives you lance and extra AP, I believe, when you're in the assault doctrine. I believe I'm correct on that. But that's kind of what takes to the next level. But this is now more of like a surgical strike, not make 3 or 4 charges and get all the same results, because you do have to rely on that stratagem to take you the extra way to hit like the Blood Angels of old, so to speak, and really feel that difference as well, with even with the raising of the AP. With those weapons.
Exactly right. And if we didn't say the cover before, of course, you still get Oath of Moment with this army. When you take this attachment, you get Oath of Moment. You get this red thirst of +1 attacks and strength instead of the doctrine. So that's what you're giving up. All right. Tell us about the first of the stratagems, mate.
Yeah, so we're going right into the stratagems here, and the first thing that stands out is Angel Sacrifice has made a change. But like I said, fresh approach here.
Fresh eyes.
And now it's, when it's any phase, the target is going to be one Adeptus Astartes character unit from your army that was just destroyed. You can use the stratagem on that unit even though it was just destroyed. And the effect is, until the end of the battle, each time a friendly Adeptus Astartes unit makes an attack that targets the enemy unit that just destroyed your character unit, you can reroll the hit roll. So essentially, you're almost getting, I guess, like a second oath target, like a pseudo oath, which is actually kind of spicy when you think about it. But now you're essentially hoping a character unit gets killed, which there are many ways to bring in cheap characters, fortunately, in this game. So it's not a horrible strat, to be honest. Definitely not the strat of old, but definitely some interesting play for a game that doesn't have I mean, in theory, as many rerolls as we used to.
Well,
In theory.
the first thing I did when I looked at this was to go to, I guess, the vanilla portion of the Space Marines book and look for the cheapest, dumbest character I could find that I could run at my opponent with.
Right away.
Instead of that, I actually started looking at the lieutenant with lone operative, the one with the combi weapon. I was like, well, that's just kind of 65 points of janky nonsense that people kind of have to remove anyway. So that's kind of job done there. This is only 1 CP, and I think it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, so like the way I've been kind of already thinking about using this is actually I'll bring Astrath with a 5-man Death Company squad. Now I know that's 255 points,
Yikes.
But the reason why you would take that honestly is because Astrath actually gives you a once per game devastating wounds ability on a unit. So instead of relying on the Thunderhammers, which are hitting on 4s at 15 attacks, well on the charge it would be 20 attacks. You actually just take a 5-man Power Fist and Inferno Pistol squad.
Yep.
So you have the 5 Inferno Pistols, which get full rerolls to hit because they're Death Company. That's the Buck Rage ability. Then they're going into the whatever unit you have to try and take a big chunk out of, if not wipe the whole squad. But now at this point, it is a sacrificial unit where Astrath being only 100 points, you're not really feeling it as much as maybe you once were. And at the same time, just trying to proc those devastating wounds, trying to just rip out a big chunk of someone's army goes a long way. And of course, you can still employ this stratagem on a big chunky squad of your opponents, or like a big knight, a wraith knight. You kind of name it. We're going to insert all the broken things. Why not?
Exactly right. Well, of course, when you play knights, you just love this. It's really
exactly
good. All right. The next one is Armor Contempt, and it's the same Armor Contempt in every other Space Marine one. It's just any unit in the shooting of the fight phase, 1 CP minus 1 AP. So I'm going to skip and continue on to Aggressive Onslaught for 1 CP when in the flight phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army just before the unit consolidates. Until the end of the phase, each time model that unit makes a consolidation move, it can move up to 6 instead of 3, provided your unit ends that consolidation move in coherency and within engagement range. So you can't use this to go further towards objectives. You have to use it to go into engagement range, but you get to move 6 instead of 3. Not going to come up that often in the current game, but when it does, you're going to be happy, right?
Correct. I agree with that. I mean, movement's movement in any game of tabletop Warhammer. So I mean, like we always have to take it when we can. But there, as you already know, and a lot of people listening who have been playing or practicing, if you're playing the game properly by the correct rules, it's actually tougher to use the consolidation move than you think. So, like Adam said, when you can use it, fantastic. It's just it's a little bit more, I guess, fundamentally not as easy as it used to be.
Agreed. What's the next one, mate?
Yeah, next one's going to be Red Rampage. So when the fight phase, the target's going to be 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. And if the effect is going to be until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Lance and Lethal Hits ability. So for those that are wondering, Lance, when you're charging someone, that gives you the +1 to wound, which is very cheeky. Blood Angels of Old, we love that. And then Lethal Hits is going to be the 6s to hit auto wound, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Which also I think does add up over time, especially the fact that combat that with the fact that you're getting +1 attack. You have a bit more of a volume of dice to be rolling, so the odds are maybe a couple more 6s to just auto wound anyway.
Yeah, dude, and the fact is you have a lot of rerolls to hit combat from the Death Company, so they can really farm the lethal hits against hardier opponents. And then after you go through the lethal hits, you have Lance to help you get over the line there as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do quite like this one. I think this is quite good. This lets you, especially with that unit you just described, I think this lets you take more 5-mans and try and punch up rather than trying to bully as much with the 10-mans.
Right, for sure. I mean, like, I will want to actually just make one comment on this, though. I believe it is in the, what's it called? In the Space Marine, the Gladius Task Force, however, a little bit disappointing that their Honor the Chapter, which is basically similar, is still better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the Assault Doctrine, you do proc the AP, and in this edition right now, combat is definitely not as lethal as it used to be, so you actually really want that extra AP over the lethal hits, in my opinion. But like we said, it's here nor there, and you could definitely still make both work. It's just very situational and what targets you're going after.
Perfectly said. And 100%, man, like when looking at how weapon profiles have changed, most guns got more shots, while Blast got better keywords. You know, AP stayed around about the same, or maybe got a little bit worse, but strength went way up, toughness on vehicles went way up, and then melee profiles just got worse across the board. We got less attacks, and then less ability to close and get into combat as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, this is a little bit less relevant. Next up is Only in Death Does Duty and 2 CP. When in the fight phase, your sergeant enemy unit has selected as targets, and 1 Adeptus Astartes unit that was selected as target of those attacks. To the end of the phase, you just fight on death. If you are destroyed before you fight on death. 2 CP. Is this the same as the one in the Space Marines?
It is. I was going to say, I think it's cookie cutter as well.
Exactly right. A bit lame. Of course, all of them got Armor Contempt, which being exactly the same in each one.
Yeah.
Bit lame that you got a second one rather than getting another unique one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do.
It's pretty lame. Yeah. All right, mate. Last one.
Yeah, so we're going to go over to the last one here, and that is going to be the Relentless Assault. And that one is when in your movement phase, just after an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army falls back, and the target the Adeptus Astartes unit, and the effect is, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to declare a charge, even though it fell back this phase. I personally do really like this, just because I've never had this ability before, especially I've been playing Blood Angels for 3 years, and I'm pretty sure only the Sanguinor himself had that built-in ability. But it's actually interesting when you're in a pinch and you want to be the one charging to be getting that Sons of Sanguinius detachment bonus. So this one, when you do, again, like I said, when you're in a pinch, you're definitely going to want to do that. And now people are probably like, well, what if all my stuff's tied up and I want to do this with multiple units? The nature of this, and we'll kind of go over this more in part 2, is the fact that you're not going to bring as much combat. I know it's very sad to say off the hop, so I apologize for that. But because you're only going to have a key combat unit or 2, probably, maybe 3, the likelihood of you being tied up by all of them at once is going to be a little bit low. So when you need that to happen, you can definitely make it work.
And I'll say this ubiquitously, as of recording this, the only Space Marine chapter I haven't recorded one on is Deathwatch. And after doing all of these, I don't think Deathwatch is going to be the case either, although we've just seen some hits come down for Desolation Marines that might change things. But I think only Dark Angels get to take like a decent amount of chapter-specific units in the best competitive armies. I do think it's like maybe 25% of your army gets to be chapter-specific now. The rest of it, you kind of want to be vanilla good stuff.
I agree.
So it's a bit wonky. Maybe that's by design by GW. They want you to take more vanilla Marines and then just have some one to 2 to 3 spicy units and characters. But it's definitely apparent in this book that you want to be like 80-20 vanilla to Blood Angels. As for the overall stratagem suite, the 6 strats, how do you feel about them? Like, do you feel like there's any bread and butter you're going to use them every game, every turn kind of ones, or are they more just if you got them, use them?
Yeah, so I mean, that is a great question, just because, I mean, and I know you already just kind of said this, but out of the 6, I mean, 2 of them are cookie cutter from the Space Marine one, and one of them is actually, 2 of them are cookie cutter with Armor of Contempt and the Only in Death, and then one of them is pretty much copy and paste 90% of it, which is the Red Rampage ability. So it's like, there's a huge debate right now whether you just take Blood Angels Sons of Sanguinius or Blood Angels Gladius Task Force. Because you're really just selecting Angel Sacrifice, Aggressive Onslaught, and Relentless Assault. And I don't actually know if that is enough to go Sons of Sanguinius Detachment. It's still up for debate. But with this one in mind, the one that you're going to definitely be using, I think, more often than not, is probably Relentless Assault if you're really skewing into the combat to kind of just shock your opponent. Because I feel like no one's actually ready to take on an army of full combat right now.
That's true, man. You can just go the heavy skew and catch people napping, thinking that that's just not how the game's played now, and then just swarm them. I actually would respect that pretty high if you did.
No, and at time of recording, like I mentioned right at the beginning, I mean, they just changed the ability of how towering is going to be working. So, I mean, the fact that you can actually kind of dig into ruins again and not feel like you're going to be just shot off the board just imminently every turn, kind of gives you a reason to kind of bring back that skew, but like we said, it's still early days. There's still a lot of testing to be had, and kind of to see where the meta shakes up. But I can see a world where I'm just bringing 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard again. I don't even care. I'll do it.
Just do it, man. Just full send. I love that. Do it. All right, into the enhancements. First of which is Artisan of War. Adeptus Astartes model only. Improve the armor penetration characteristic of the bearer's weapons by 1, and it has a save characteristic of 2+ now. How many points will this run you? This will run you 20 points. Probably not worth 20 points. I wish that was 15 or 10 even. But do you like it?
I think it's actually not bad. I mean, the fact that like I am looking at taking a generic captain again, just because of the ability that he gives a unit, the fact that they can use a stratagem for free, exactly, and the fact that he also gives you +1 strength on the charge as well. So you're getting the Sanguinary Guard all of a sudden to strength 7, and then they have +1 a wound. All of a sudden now he kind of is decently enough that you want to keep him alive within a unit, or you would like him to not be just picked off by a couple of sniper scouts, because this is actually a potential thing when you have a 3-up save, sadly. But yeah, like I really do feel like this actually is useful, but like you said, wish it wasn't the 20 points, but I don't think I think if you had the points, why not go for it?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Next up.
Yeah, next up we're looking at we just go down here, Visage of Death. So this was my go-to for the entire edition, and that was turning off OBSEC. But this is actually really interesting now, because OBSEC, as we know, everyone listening, that is not a thing anymore in the 10th edition. So Adeptus Astartes model only, while an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, is within engagement range of the bear's unit, have the objective control characteristic of models in that unit. So I personally do really like this. I love anytime. Yeah, I think anytime you can manipulate and kind of dictate the scoring ability of yourself and an opponent on an objective, I think it's massive. The only caveat that really turned me off, and this is why I haven't bothered with this one yet, is simply the excluding part, because monsters and vehicles tend to have a higher OC, and I have literally gone onto an objective before, thought I took it like in practice, and I'm like, oh right, your Wraith Knight has 10 OC.
10. Yes.
And it's like, good talk. Good, fantastic talks. So it's just like, it's not the greatest, but what do you think about this one here?
So what I like about it is, because we know that the melee profiles are a bit lackluster, this just means you can still accomplish the job without having to kill the unit. You can just maul the unit, not wipe it, and still accomplish the task. So that makes me feel like I like it better as a disruption piece, as a trading piece, like on a non-fully tooled out, doesn't need to be a maxed out, wipe them all no matter what. You know, someone's got 20 Necromorphs on an objective, and you just have to kill it. You have to do enough to take it off them. This unit can, kill 12 of them and have 10 OC and do it.
Well, it's only 15 points as well.
Yes,
it's not that bad.
Correct. It's not that bad. All right, next one is Archangel's Shard. Adeptus Astartes model only. The bearer's melee weapons have anti-chaos 5+ and lance. So always +1 to wound and anti-chaos 5+. Yeah, I'm struggling with this one. How about it's 15 as well? What do you think? Oh no, it's not 15.
Yeah. Is it 20?
10. It's 10.
It's 10. Okay.
No, but no. Wait a second. No, it's not. I just read the wrong one twice. Archangel's Shard is 25.
Okay.
It's the most expensive one.
Fantastic. So good to know. Good to know what I'm not including.
Why?
No, I mean, like, Lance is a very strong ability, so I do get it, but Lance is still triggered when you make the charge, so you're still needing to be the one that's charging in order to actually proc that. So I don't know if 25 justifies this at all. And the anti-chaos, I mean, like, sure, it's fluffy, but in a competitive setting, anti-chaos is going to be very rare unless Abaddon and Sons kind of take over the meta, then sure, I guess. But otherwise, I really think this could have just been like an anti-infantry 4+ or 5+.
Correct.
And with the lance ability. And then 25 all of a sudden is like, okay, well, this guy is a blender.
Yes.
Maybe give him some lightning claws, maybe whatever. And all of a sudden he walks in with like 8 or 9 attacks. Or whatever it is, 7, 8 attacks, so it's a Blood Angel. And it's just like, okay, now we're onto something. But yeah, the anti-chaos 5+ kind of threw me off. Now that you told me it's 25 points, I don't know if I would really go for this one.
I think I wanted it to be 10 or 15. That's why I went to those ones.
We were both agreeing. We were nodding in spirit.
All right, give us the last one, brother.
The Icon of the Angel. So the Adeptus Astartes model only. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, you got to love that caveat, within engagement range of the bearer's unit is selected to fall back. Models in that unit, in the enemy unit, must take desperate escape tests as if their unit was battle shocked. When doing so, if that enemy unit is also battle shocked by other means, subtract 1 from each of those desperate escape tests. So, desperate escape tests, I think, are crucial to try and impose on your opponent when and where you can.
Yep, I think it's cool.
Right? I think that is very cool. And the fact that you're actually subtracting 1 from those tests, I believe that means 1, 2, and 3. They take mortal wounds.
So they lose. Well, yeah, exactly right. And if they're a one wound model, they just 50% of them die.
So it's actually, this might be the one that's, to be honest, a better option.
Yep.
And how many points is this one actually? Sorry, I didn't take a gander at that one.
This is Icon of the Angel. This is 10.
10, really?
This is Icon. Icon of the Angel.
This is really this is interesting at 10 points. I thought it was 15 or 20. But yeah, the fact that you're actually forcing a unit to take this, I think, is actually really interesting. And I know I kind of chimed in about the caveat with monsters and vehicles, but you're probably, I mean, if you think about it fluff-wise, I don't think those kind of units are going to be really taking desperate escape tests anyway.
It's fair. It's very fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely think there's definitely some room for this, but kind of what I think Adam and I are alluding to are when you're kind of building a list, you don't want this on your heavy, beefy, big hitting units. You want this on like more of like a chaff and trading unit.
Correct.
So whether you're trying to flip an objective with the Visage of Death or whether you're trying to force desperate escape tests, we're talking like 80 to 100 point characters in this really cheaper unit. That's maybe like in total 250. So it's like 1/8 of your army max, if we can kind of get that.
And what you're getting at is that you're building units that don't kill the unit they charge.
Right.
That seems so un-Blood Angels. So un-Blood Angels.
That's what I was going to get to after all this, where I'm just like, we're planning on not killing this unit now, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because so as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to be as blunt as I can, these all suck. The fact that Visage of Death and Icon of the Angel have zero impact on games versus Knights, and Knights are everywhere right now, sucks. Yeah. That's just rough. They just don't. Yep. Neither of them work versus monsters or vehicles. And then the other two, one of them only really gets half of its goodness against Chaos, and then you have the plus AP and 2+ armor save. That one is kind of the only one that gives you a buff all the time.
Yep. That is definitely not ideal. That is, to say the least. I'm someone who, and people who have watched my YouTube videos before, I am such a glass half full kind of person.
Me too, man. Me too. So
and it's like for us to be like this right now, it's like it's interesting.
It's
definitely interesting to say the least.
Well, what does that inform us to do? That informs us that you fill your list up to the best of your ability with data sheets and models that are worth taking, and then whatever points you got left, slap one of these in. That's all it is.
Literally.
None of these are built around. None of these are worth taking specific units because they're going to make good use of these. You do it the other way around. You write your list you write the best freaking, amazing, funnest thing that's going to be rewarding to you for you to play. And then you got 15 points left over, slap one in. Go for it.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, mate. That is already taking us to the data sheet section. And I'm going to let you freewheel here. You take us to whatever data sheets you think are relevant. Unlike a lot of other ones, I mean, I think only the GSC one is the only other one I've come across so far that's in alphabetical order, which is frustrating.
This is alphabetical order as well.
Yeah. Give us we'll start with the HQs. Give us up to 3 HQs that you like the look of or that you rate.
So, I mean, right off the hop, the ones that caught my eye were Lemartes, Astrath, and Dante.
Yep.
One, because I'm a fluffy person at the end of the day with this whole hobby. I mean, these are the guys who I've been reading in obviously every single novel I've picked up. So definitely biased. I also really wished Mephiston was better. That was a bit of a shame. But if I had to tell you the one who's actually stayed in my list, I think since I put him in, that's got to be the Sanguinor. So for me, the Sanguinor, oh my God, the Sanguinor, Lemartes, and Dante are the 3 that I would probably be the most inclusive about. And then Astrath, if you're really trying to skew with something, and I can elaborate on that, where, like I mentioned briefly, I thought, Devastating Wounds is such a powerful ability. And he does this once per battle. When you're, I could just read it here. When the models make a charge move, this model can use this ability. When it does, until the end of the turn, melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Devastating Wounds ability. So the fact that he's 100 points, he gives it to a unit of Death Company, and you can just take a 10-man brick of this with power fists that are hitting on 3s. If your Sons of Sanguinary Detachment, I believe that's going to be 40 attacks. So it's like with full rerolls to hit, with Devastating Wounds, I mean, you're probably picking up a Wraith Knight. You're probably picking up at most things in the game.
You slap down a CP and they got lethal hits and lance on the charge. So they're +1 attack, +1 strength, +1 to wound. Devastating Wounds, like, I mean, the only keyword they don't have is exploding hits.
Correct.
Like they've got every other food group is covered by that unit.
Literally, and the fact that he's in the unit now, they actually have OC, which is so sad that they don't have any at all. But it is what it is. But yeah, so it's like all of a sudden, it's like now it's an 11 OC unit. They can definitely trade up. He has a 2+ save with 5 wounds, so he's not bad. The only downside of Astrath, in my opinion, at 100 points, is the fact that they hurt his own output. In terms of combat with only 4 attacks, which was super disappointing for me because this guy should be an absolute like mass murder of like all infantry in this game. So that was definitely disappointing. They even took his hammer down or his axe down to damage 2 instead of 3. But I definitely think he's worth bringing if you're trying to skew
only
for like
points.
The big things.
Only 100 points. I like him a lot for 100 points. Let's go to the Sanguinor because I think he is
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, and like for those of you listening who aren't really too sure about how Fight First works, he has this built in, and that does mean that when he's doing his heroic intervention, or it's called Miraculous Savior, his ability, that he's actually going to be fighting first, which is really nice and a really nice change because sometimes you'd bring him down before and he would just like kind of fight last. And also he's got a cheeky keyword on him into his abilities called Lone Operative,
Lone
and we
operative,
know how
baby.
powerful that is.
Yeah, man, that is a super powerful thing. So he's got Deep Strike, fights first, Lone Operative. While a friendly step to start is unit within 6 of this model, you can roll Battle Shock. Yeah, that's cute. But Miraculous Savior is the money we're talking about. Once per battle,
Oh yeah.
at the end of your opponent's charge phase, if this model is still in reserves, you can select one enemy unit that made a charge move for this phase. Set this model up on the battlefield within engagement range of that enemy unit. You just put this guy into combat with him. He heroic intervenes for 0 CP from reserve straight into him with fights first. He's got 8 attacks hitting on 2s at 632. Doesn't count as having made a charge though when he does Miraculous Savior, does he?
Yeah, but he does have devastating wounds. So I mean, depending on what infantry you're throwing him into, and depending on possibly if this is an Oath of Moment target, the fact that he can actually just kind of proc devastating wounds potentially, and the fact that he actually has a decent AP built in, and now all of a sudden, if you do use Red Rampage on him, which is the Lance and lethal hits ability, now all of a sudden this guy can actually pick up like 5 other Marines, for example, or 5 other chaff units that you just really need to make sure that you're not tied up with, or to make sure that on your turn that you can now have free roam to, I guess, use that unit as more movement to kind of get into the thick of the enemy lines or whatnot. And the fact that he's 7 wounds, not too bad either.
7 wounds with a 2-up, 4-up is a very wonky profile for a lot of people to shoot into. 160 points. I think this guy is an auto take or bordering on an auto take.
He's literally been in my list since I kind of settled on something for every single game so far. And I mean, like, there's even games where like my opponents are like, "Oh, aren't you going to come heroic into me?" And it's like, I could, or I could just have him sit on this objective. And I was super cheesy, but lone operative, right? I'm just like, you're not going to shoot him. So,
dude. So here's the thing, right? This is a fundamentally. Actually, no. I'm going to save it for part 2. Save it part 2.
okay.
Yeah, because it'll take like 10 minutes to unpack how I'm thinking about it. But never mind. So as far as I can tell, between Oath of Moment and this guy, no one's charging you for the first 3 turns. From turn 1, because they're probably not going to be, you're not going to let them get in range and just charge you unless you really want them to. Turn 2, because the Sanguinor is going to mess up whatever they're trying to do. And turn 3, the Sanguinor is going to mess up whatever they're trying to do. And then if they didn't charge you on turn 3, well, you just deep strike him on an objective and just lone operative it out.
And
it's really
funny enough,
value.
if you try and go for, if you actually want to sacrifice him, don't get me wrong, he is an expensive sacrifice at 160, but you can just pop the 1 CP Angel sacrifice on a unit that you need to take down of your opponents, and this man will help you immediately get the job done by kind of baiting your opponent into making, let's say, that big, like a close charge into like forward deploying scouts with like that big knight, that whatever, the Castellan, whatever it might be that you need to take down, kind of baiting them in, using the Sanguinor, letting the Sanguinor just die, and then now all of a sudden you don't even have to use your Oath of Moment on that night ever again for the rest of the game. So it's actually an interesting way to use him as well.
Agreed. All right, let's go to Dante, the mad lad himself. I quite like Dante's profile. So he's moves 12, toughness 4, 2+ save, 6 wounds, 1 less wound than the Sanguinor. Yeah, for whatever reasons. His pistol is cute. It's got sustained hits D3 for some reason, even though it's only 1 shot. So when you loll out and get that 6, you're just going to be just absolute money towns. 8 attacks in combat at 732, of course, hitting on 2s with lethal hits. Tell us about his abilities.
Yeah, so he's Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilus, as well. This model is leading a unit. Add 1 to charge rolls made for that unit, and each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So this is fantastic when you have a unit like Sanguinary Guard attached to him, because that is the only unit he can attach to. But definitely, you are going to get your best bang for your buck out of that Sanguinary Guard unit with someone like him, and this is the only way to improve your charge ability in the entire Space Marine and Blood Angel indexes. So this is actually one of the best ways that if you're doing this, you can take this guy and try and get into combat a lot more efficiently. The only thing that I came to mind, obviously, and I am not a rules writer, so I don't know how broken this would be. I thought that this should have just been an aura off of Dante, like a 9-inch +1 to charge aura, not the +1 to not add 1 to hit. That should be him and his unit. But I just thought maybe he's the boy. You know, he's the guy pushing the Blood Angels into battle. I think that could have been a bit more eloquently done, but you know what? Like I said, you want that Sanguinary Guard squad on the table. You want the most out of them. This is probably the guy you're going to take with them, or a captain, but definitely one of the top options there.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, of course, there's a second ability there, the Death Mask of Sanguinius. So at the start of the fight phase, each time an unit within 6 inches of this model must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the test when they do. And that's an interesting ability as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, the -1 is actually quite cute because there are a lot of people that are teetering on the 1/3.
Yes.
The 1/4 fail to 1/3 fail,
right.
And just pushing them over, man. You can just take some people out of the game.
Right,
like
and all of a sudden, now all of a sudden there's 0 OC. They're not being able to use strats.
Yeah.
It's a good ability as well.
At 135, I think he's perfectly pointed. I think he's actually one of the few things in this index that are probably fair and balanced for their points. A lot of people are paying overs, unfortunately. Which tell us the next one we're going to go to. What's another unit we should unpack for people?
Yeah, so I mean, going away from the characters, or do you want to go one more character?
Go for one more character if you got them.
The one that comes to mind right away is definitely going to be Lemartes. The simple fact that he just so Guardian of the Lost is the ability. While this model is leading a unit, each time an attack is allocated to a model in that unit, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack, and he's going to be joining your Jump Pack Death Company infantry. So the fact that they're going to be -1 damage with a 6-up Feel No Pain, 2 damage weapons really don't feel great against this unit.
Dude, slap down Armor Contempt on top, and that unit is really durable. Give him cover as well, and all of a sudden you actually have something that feels meaty. Really good. He is extremely strong. His second one of his abilities is while he's leading a unit, they get lethal hits, which kind of dumbs down the 1 CP lethal hits and lance ability, which does suck a little bit. I wish that was sustained hits.
Right. I mean, the fact that he is going to be leading Death Company, he's going to be giving them actually an OC count. I think that he's definitely a really strong take, that if you're going to be taking a Death Company unit, you want him involved. But as we can tell now, we've just described 4 now, if you include the Sanguinor, 3 of them that could lead units, 1 being the Sanguinor as well, on his own. So it's like, now all of a sudden we've just invested, I want to say roughly 600 points or so in characters. So it's like, you really need to pick and choose of what your army's going for, what it needs to do on the battlefield, while also still being able to play the game well. And that's its whole other dilemma, which we're all going to try and, unpack as we go on. But all these characters definitely have some good play. So I don't think they got the Blood Angel characters wrong, to be honest. I think they did get right.
I actually don't think they've got them wrong either. The only last one I want to point out is the Sanguinary Priest.
Yes.
Sanguinary Priest with Jump Pack, I think, is a take. It can join, but it's the rough thing here is it joins the wrong units. It can join assault squads and Vanguard vet squads.
Correct.
But what it does for the units is extremely good. So it gives you a 5-up Feel No Pain for models in the unit. And then the Blood Chalice is, while this model is leading a unit, improve the AP of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit.
Very strong.
This may be one way to recapture something from Vanguard veterans. Like they're still not going to be as good as they were, but you're getting somewhere, because what you could take Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. Oh, sorry, it doesn't matter. Heirloom weapons and Storm Shields is what you're going to get.
Yes, exactly. Now, I mean, there is an argument that assault squads, in my opinion, are honestly better. The fact that you can just take a Thunder Hammer, take an Eviscerator, you still have, I believe, a Chainsword and 2 Meltagons. So it's like, it's still going to be that little package that the one of old that was kind of tried and true. But he's just going to actually take them to a different degree. Now it's like, do you really want this guy to take that unit to that degree when it's really a trade piece? That's the only flex. And I think, Adam, you're more correct that if you're going to really take this guy, you want him on a 10-man squad of Vanguard vets to really get the most of them and really make them feel sticky when they're doing their job, kind of thing.
Well, I'm just quickly going to the Vanguard veteran squad, because you still take Storm Shields, balls. See, I was really hoping the Storm Shield would give him the 3rd wound, because I thought that would be the kicker, the 5 Feel No Pain with 3 wounds.
But that would be the best.
Just gives him the 4-up invuln, doesn't give him the extra wound.
Correct. Yeah.
5-up with possible Armor Contempt isn't the worst thing in the world, though. But if they had 3 wounds with the 5 Feel No Pain, that would have been then we're cooking. But
and heirloom weapons are AP2?
AP1.
Oof.
Yeah, dude. So they go from there's 4 attacks, which will go to 5 on the charge. They're hitting on 3s. They'll be strength 5 going to strength 6 on the charge at AP 2-1 damage. So it's still not very impressive. Like they still need Oath of Moment to have any chance of like scratching the paint on a rhino, for example.
Oh man, I mean, like I was going to complain, but then I think I heard a couple of uhhs from Wolfens out there. So
yes, that is legitimately. You guys should start a little party because you both got absolute legitimate gripes.
Oh man.
Tell us about another unit that you want to talk about.
I mean, the one that has not left my list as well so far in testing is the Librarian Dreadnought, and boy, this guy does not miss. I'm telling you.
I'm a fan. All right, I'll give us the. This is the usual thing I've been doing. I give us the stats and the weapons, and then you do the abilities. Because the abilities is the juice. He moves 6, toughness 9. 2 up armor save, very relevant. 8 wounds, OC 3. He's got a Bloodland Psychic power, which is can be overcharged, of course, to make it hazardous. But it's sustained hits D3, 18-inch range, 1 shot. Strength 10 minus 3 D6 damage. If you overcharge, it's still the 1 shot, still sustained hits D3. 12 neg 3 D6 plus 3. Very nice. And then you got him Heavy Flame Melter Gun, Stormbolter, who cares? Furioso Fist is 5 attacks at 12-3-3, and the Force Halberd is 1 attack, extra attack, at 9-3 D6 plus 3. So 6 attacks in melee, pretty respectable. One of them hits on a 2. Sorry, the Furioso Halberd hits on a 2, which is actually relevant. Tell us about the abilities, mate.
So right away, this is huge in this game right now. I believe the Shield of Sanguinius, while a friendly Adeptus Astartes unit is within 6 of this model, models in the unit have the Feel No Pain 5+ against mortal wounds and psychic attacks. And I feel like that has we've just seen a rise in devastating wounds and a lot of different things like that can just kind of pop off at any moment. So the fact that this is an aura, I think is really good, and you don't have to rely on him. Well, he's not a character anymore, so that's fantastic. The fact that he's just there, he helps out your units. He doesn't have to be visibly, seeing them to give them this benefit. Just stick him behind a wall, do what you got to do to make sure that you're getting these buffs. And then absolutely the best ability I think we can use, and I'm absolutely leaning into as my whole shtick right now, is Wings of Sanguinius. And that's once per turn. At the end of your movement phase, 1 Psyker unit from your army with this ability can use it. If it does, roll 1d6 on a 1. The Psyker suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 2+, select 1 friendly Adeptus Astartes infantry unit within 12 of that Psyker and remove the selected unit from the battlefield. Then set it up again anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 horizontally away from all enemy models. So that is same turn deep strike. That is an ability. That is turn 1 through 5. You name it. You need to do get to a certain point of the battlefield to score points. You need to strike something in a certain area of the board that you couldn't quite get to. This is your man. And the way I've been using him is actually using it with my shooting units.
Yes,
basically be like, is that a tank that I got to take down over there that's being hidden pretty well? Well, we're going to just teleport this grav team, and it's going to be Oath the Moment, that unit, and we're going to take that thing out right now on turn 1 if we have to.
He's a 5-turn drop pod. He
really
good.
is.
It's so good.
I don't think you can leave home without him. I really, truly feel that.
165 points is not breaking the bank. I think this guy is ubiquitous.
Oh, wait, is he not 185?
No, 165. Oh, sorry. I was looking at Furioso. Librarian Dreadnought is 185. My bad.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this guy he would make every one of my lists. 100%.
Yeah, so honestly. Good. And you know what? Even if you have to throw the kitchen sink at your opponent and you just need to make that charge and try and go for it or whatnot, I mean, the fact that he just can get that combat unit to a different area of the board, as long as they're within 12 of him, which honestly I love the fact that it's 12 inches and not 6, because that would have been pretty brutal, the fact that he only moves 6.
Yeah.
But you know what? I really do think that he's a really great piece, just from a tech standpoint, and the fact that he also can pack a pretty mean punch as a countercharge. I think why not, right?
Well, I love you don't need line of sight. It's the 12-inch range is so big, so it's 18-inch range off him, 18 plus D6-inch range. And then whatever the other model moves, because the other model gets to move towards him to try and get range as well, and then you beam it up. So you can do this you can do this a lot, and as the turns go on, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. This guy could just score you 20 points in a game because he's getting you cards you couldn't get otherwise.
Correct. Literally.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I think he should make every list.
Yeah.
Never need to take more than 1 though, because you only get to do this once per turn.
Correct.
All right, you got another unit for us?
I mean, we can lean right into my favorite unit of all time, which is the Sanguinary Guard.
Sanguinary Guard, let's do it.
So I think this unit is definitely still a fantastic unit. The only downside is their points. But otherwise, I mean, they are fantastic in terms of what they do. I mean, Adam, do you want to cover his stats? I got the abilities.
Yeah, sure. So 215 for 5, 430 for 10.
Jeez Louise, okay.
When a Desolation Marine costs 24 points and essentially punches almost as hard as these guys, but from the other side of the table, and they're 19 points difference. It's a hard take. They move 12. They got toughness 4 with a 2+ save, 2 wounds, and OC 1. They can have their Angelus bolt guns, which is range 12, 2 shots at 301, and pistol, or their Inferno pistols, which is range 6, unfortunately, at 8 -4 D3. Only D3 on the melter pistols. Kind of sucks.
It does, yeah.
Plasma pistol is range 12, and what you'd expect. 721 or 832, and I think that's probably the pick, right?
I think so as well. I mean, I'm still kind of messing with Inferno pistols a bit, but I think Plasma has a huge argument now, finally.
All right, the Incarmine Blades is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s at 522, or the Power Fist, of course, also hitting on 3s, which is nice, at 822. Tell us about the abilities.
Yeah, so right away, obviously, Angelic Visage has hung around, basically, which each time a melee attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Definitely something that, I mean, we've seen that combat is not as good as it used to be. So the fact that they're just going to make sure that they are just the best defensively at it, I think is huge. And then let's just double down right away. And the fact that Heirs of Askelion, as well a Warlord model, is leading this unit. Each time a melee attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So, I mean, that is very strong when it comes to this combat game we're trying to wage war in.
I mean, now, I don't know if... Have you been able to justify the 10-man yet?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not at 430. But I have been able to justify the 5 with Dante, but now actually more often the captain.
Yeah, so I was about to say, of course you're putting your Warlord in this. You take one unit of this, chuck your Warlord in it, -1 hit, -1 to win immediately. It can be an absolute terror in some matchups, like as if Marines needed help, like tap dancing on World Eaters, but lol, you will.
More importantly, you're throwing the Sanguinary banner in as a free upgrade now, for adding that one OC. So now the unit with the captain is going to be essentially a 12 OC unit that is going to walk around and take objectives off people, which is actually which is honestly more importantly what this unit's going to do. Now, is it an expensive 340 points with Dante or possibly a 315 with the captain? Yes. I'm leaning towards the captain sadly because they get the free strat that they can use, whether that's the heroic, whether that's the fight on death, whether that's the you name it, insert it. Or the fact that they get the +1 strength on the charge additionally from the captain. So you're taking the Incarmine Blades. You already have 4 attacks. If you're Sons of Sanguinius, now you have 5 attacks. So you're back to the old Sanguinary Guard. And now all of a sudden, you're definitely going to be feeling it a lot better when you're hitting at strength 7 with a potential +1 to wound.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that there's a phenomenally good data sheet. If they were to come down, I don't want to say 10 points per model. Let's say 5, 6, or 7 points per model. You could almost justify the.
You think that much? Hold on. At 215 right now. Sorry, poor math here. You're looking at what? So you're looking at 43. So yeah, they're 43 points a model. That is insane.
Absolutely.
That is insane.
Nuts. Absolutely.
I really think the fair number for this unit at this kind of level of what I truly think they can do on the tabletop in the hands of the right general, I think 38 points. So 5 points less a model. I really think that would be the right number.
Yeah, I certainly think GW could start at 5 and see if they become a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the problem is that you're going to see people spam them again. I truly think.
It's too cheap, absolutely.
But I really don't think 190 is too cheap for a 5-man. The fact that you're going to be taking a Warlord with them as well.
Yeah,
I don't think so at all.
I think it's fine. Yeah, totally fine. All right. Do we have another one?
I mean, I don't want to just throw you a curveball like this, but I mean, first of all, we didn't address the Death Company, but we've kind of talked about them tremendously with Astrath, with Lemartes. We know what they're doing on the label, kind of on the tin. So I mean, that's definitely, you're going to go for the jump pack variant, that's for sure. Mephiston, I kind of touched on him. He's a little disappointing, and it's honestly not even because Mephiston. It's because of what units he can join. What he brings to the table. Right. And I could have seen him just being a really cheeky lone operative instead on his own, which is so much more Lord of Death-like anyway.
Correct.
But they didn't go that route, and that's a whole other core mechanic that we're not going to address right now because we don't have an extra hour.
So what you're pointing out is that Mephiston can only join essentially the standard Primaris Marines, so Assault Intercessors, Stern Guard. Not even the Infernus squads, not even Hellblasters, like just those three. It's really weird subset.
Even in the lore, he is with Hellblasters. So I'm like, at least make that an option. But, I mean, like, I'm taking Stern Guard in my army right now. I mean, if you're a Space Marine player, I really, truly believe you should, if you're playing competitively. But it's like, do I really need him with the Stern Guard, who are about to just get teleported by my Dreadnought and then die? Probably not.
No.
So when we're trying to do this min-max game right here, he doesn't really find a way into my list currently. But honestly, just for the lulz, he's fantastic still, just to be a really cool character on the tabletop. That I can't disagree with ever.
Oh, he's just such a mad lad. 120 points, not gonna bust you open. Wait, you were still talking about Mephiston, yeah?
No, I mean, like it's just like he has a fight force ability. The Psychic Hood's really cool with the 4 Feeling Pain. It's like he has all these cool abilities, and you're like, oh, it's on these units.
Yeah, I'm enhancing literally nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I was distracted there is because for the first time in probably 9 years, I'm looking at a Baal Predator.
I was just going to say we need to end off with the Baal Predator.
Crack your knuckles. Everyone sit down. Strap yourselves in.
Does everyone own 3 here?
Points. I mean, probably. I own 3 Predators. I could easily make them Baal Predators. 125 points.
Yeah.
Moves 12, toughness 10, 3+ save, 11 wounds, OC 3. You take a Twin Assault Cannon. Don't take the Twin Assault Cannon. It's trash. You can take double heavy bolter, double heavy flamer, storm bolters. The Baal Flamestorm Cannon.
Yes, sir.
My hellhounds are incredulous, sir. 18-inch range, ignores cover, torrent, D6 plus 3 shots, so up to 9 shots at strength 6 minus 2 damage. That's not a bad flamer, especially when Overwatch is such a premium.
With ignores cover, I think that's really strong.
125 points? All right, tell us the ability.
It's the one ability that this thing absolutely needed this whole time. And it's you can reroll advanced rolls made for this model. So that's already getting your efficiency up. So now you're looking at, on average, you're looking at 15 to 16 inches of movement consistently on average. And then each time this model advances until the end of the turn, ranged weapons equipped by this model have the assault ability, but they can only target infantry units. I mean, right away, the Baal Flamestorm Cannon with heavy flamers, I think, is absolutely the take on this guy. Now, you do have some variables in terms of the heavy flamers being its 2d6. That kind of is what it is, but you're really doing this for the Baal Flamestorm Cannon, and like you mentioned at the points, it's really not a bad anti-infantry weapon.
No.
That's going to be really taking down even elite infantry at times.
Yeah. I love the idea of probably only taking one of these, but just driving it into the middle of the table and spooking people into not coming out to go for objectives because they'll just get roasted.
And to be honest with you, T10 seems to be a pretty interesting sweet spot right now that is tough to deal with. Now, of course, people are bringing the weapons that are dealing with them on purpose, but that's going to be a unit now utilizing its weapons to specifically take out this tank and not entertaining other options that potentially you're going to be threat overloading with at the same time. So it's like now all of a sudden this guy actually seems like he's a little bit more viable than ever before due to the meta in this current state right now.
Dude, it's really cute. I mean, 18-inch range is the maximum range we've seen on any flamer in the game. No, we haven't seen one that's 20. That's more than 18. We haven't seen any way to increase it. So just there, best flamer range in the game. D6 plus 3 is as good as any flamer I've seen in the game. Yeah. Is there any better than? Is there any 2D3s or 2D6 plus 3? Anyway, I don't think I've seen anything better.
Yeah.
And then strength 6 minus 2 2. That's, I mean, against a lot of targets, that is better than the Acheron, the Valiant. They're strength 8, but they're minus 1 damage too. And Rend, ignores cover Rend, is huge. It's huge in the game. So it might as well be AP. It might as well be AP3. I actually,
to be honest,
did not expect to do that this episode.
Yeah, I know, right? Out of all the episodes.
Yeah. Did not expect to sit here and pontificate upon the value of the Baal Predator.
Damn.
Yeah. Do you own 3? Yeah.
I do own 3. I think I own 4, but 3. I haven't tested it yet, just because I've been literally playing into Eldar, like it's my day job. Against Eldar, that's the one faction where it's like you can't utilize it like you want to. And so you said it was 120 or 125?
125.
So that is the same points, or at least it was until this morning, as a whirlwind. So
Yep.
the whirlwind was making its way into my list. But hey, with some of these point changes, with some of these tweaks here and there, I don't see a reason for me not to try it at this point, to be very honest with you.
I think give it a go. 1, maybe 2. Go 3 and see how it does, but I think you're going to end up with 1 or 2. But
So
I think
Adam,
they're hilarious.
One tournament with 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard and 2 Baal Predators, is that what we're saying?
That's it. No, just do 3 and 3. If we're going to do it, 3 and 3. And Lemartes needs some mates. So Lemartes and 5 DC. Let's go.
Oh, man. We're going for it.
You're probably already over points.
I was going to say. I was like, I just had 3 Sanguinary Guards, so we're already at 12,000 points. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, then almost 400 points in Baal, 375 in Baal Preds.
Oh god.
So we're already at like 1,700. And then
perfect.
Yikes,
Who needs to play the mission? It's fine.
Who needs characters, right? I mean, none of the enhancements are good. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that is going to bring us to the end of this portion of the review. In our wrap-ups, I asked my expert where they think Blood Angels lie in the competitive lexicon right now. So in the competitive ladder from the D tier all the way up to the S tier, where do they sit? And of course, you can give us 2 scores if you like. Give us 1 with them taken in this detachment with like the plus strength and all that stuff. And then give us 1 if they take the Gladius.
Okay, so and the scores out of what?
Oh no, it put them in the ladder in the competitive ladder.
Oh, put them in the ladder. Oh my goodness.
DC BAS.
Oh goodness. To be very blunt, and like I said, I am a glass half full guy. If I was to give you Blood Angels as Sons of Sanguinius, I would have to give you, I want to say, because they're still Marines at their core. Everyone keep remembering that if we are just building an army list from just these data sheets, this is not the strongest competitive army by any means. The fact that we're bringing in, and I hate to say this, about 1,200 points to potentially 1,400 of normal Marines, that already puts you in the B class, whether you like it or not. Correct. So I think personally, if you're trying to bring in the full flavor of Blood Angels, maybe 500 to 600 points even, so meaning we're kind of going overboard a little bit, which I have been doing because I'm a Blood Angel player.
Good man.
I want to say they're sitting at about a B minus, possibly to a low B.
I pretty much completely agree. I think it's a hot debate who's worse, the Space Wolves or the Blood Angels. I'll let you and Jaime debate it out one day. You can take on the Wolf Council.
Man, that would be an epic debate.
The thing is, you guys will both end up arguing who's worse, not who's better. It's hilarious.
I think sadly he would take that debate.
I think so.
I think every point I would make, he would just go Wolfen. Okay, Wolfen.
Yeah, Wolfen.
Okay, Wolfen.
Yeah,
okay, Wolfen.
I mean, and then he'll be like, well, at least you have Death Company. You have 1 melee unit that's relevant.
Oh, man.
And I don't even think Death Company are crazy relevant, but they are better than
they're
any...
not.
Yeah, they're better than Swift Claws, my man, which is what they've got.
And then anyway. If I was to give you a rating for Blood Angels as Gladius Task Force, that I would definitely say, again, the more fluff you're bringing into this list, or at least the way you're building it out with Blood Angel units, the lower it kind of gets. And I hate saying that, so bear with me, everybody. But I want to say you're at a B plus on the low end with the Sons of with Blood Angels as Gladius Task Force. And I think if you're just bringing in that sprinkle of Blood Angels and rocking Gladius Task Force as they should be right now with the best units in the game, such as, or not in the game, but at Space Marine's disposal, such as Stern Guard, maybe a Desolation Squad or 2, especially with the points increase, Whirlwind, Sniper Scouts, etc. I really do think that list gets into the A minus, possibly, depending on your meta, can get into that A tier. But definitely, I don't think Space Marines crack into that S tier by any means. I don't think there's anything broken about them. I think there's just very strong options because they're always going to be Space Marines. But I think that's kind of where I settle. I mean, do you agree with that, Adam, or do you think?
I pretty much wholeheartedly agree. I think. I think they can possibly jump to A minus in Gladius, depending on the right build. And that right build to me is like 1 fluffy Blood Angels bully unit with the generic good stuff vanilla Marines. I agree. Sanguinor, maybe a Baal Pred and a bully unit, albeit either that is Lemartes and Death Company, or give it away part 2. Let's not give away part 2.
I was going to say,
we're going to go over and write some lists. It's part 2, baby. We'll go over and write some lists now, mate. But I do 100% agree. Yeah. I think they are bottom of B as this detachment, unfortunately. I think this detachment is inherently very flawed.
Yes.
It's the stratagems, man. Like, where's the advance and charge stratagem? Where's the forlorn fury stratagem? Where's battle suits in Eldar kept their fire and fades and all that stuff. Why didn't you keep your first turn movers
Like, I don't want to give people false hope, and no, I do.
Upon Wings of Fire?
Oh, no, trust me. Like, and that's what I was going to say. Like, Upon Wings of Fire, Descent of Angels, and Forlorn Fury, right? It's like, those were huge identity options for the Blood Angels that really were the reason you were playing Blood Angels. So, again, I don't have any information that people don't already know themselves. I don't have some sort of insider opinion on any of this. This is just my hot take on this. I personally think that we have to remember, this is just the index.
It's just the index.
Armies are getting codexes. I don't know when. I don't know where. I don't know how this is going to be released or when Blood Angels are coming out. I'm just hoping soon because there's Space Marine chapter. Of course, I'm hopeful and biased to that. But I really do think that you're going to see 6 to maybe 8, possibly 10. We'll see, because I know they're trying to minimize the stratagems.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get at least a 6, possibly to an 8 to 10 area, that are going to still make them feel a bit more flavorful and a bit more of a way to kind of feel like that really strong combat army again. That's my hope. And just keep that in mind. Now, again, this is not a promise for me. So if GW comes around with the old hammer of just, we're going to stick with the index guns, then I apologize. But I'm still hopeful that I think they're going to see their ways. They have time to make some corrections, and I think they're going to be on point with it.
Well, I do 100%. If they just points drops, and if they just had points drops and like an advance and charge strat, like advance and charge, and like, I don't know, get another bonus or some crap if you're doing some other thing. That would just be, they just need an activator. They need an activator to let them get all these other rules, because it's like they've got good data sheets and good rules once they make it to combat, and then there's a big gap in the middle, and there's no way to bridge that gap apart from +1 to charge, which you get from Dante. That's it. There's no way to bridge that gap and jump through all those hoops to get to those rules. If they just had one.
I wanted to actually just put this out there for food for thought, and I know we have to obviously get into part 2 here, but I wanted your opinion on this. I thought about an interesting rule. I know this is completely theory crafting, but I think people would love seeing this. What if there was an enhancement specifically for a chaplain model that gave you a pre-game move of up to 12 inches?
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like you're paying for the tax of the chaplain. You're paying for the probably 20 point, 25 point, whatever it is. Upgrade. But all of a sudden, now your Death Company feel like Death Company again.
Yes, agreed.
With that angry, in-your-face unit that you always kind of wanted. And I think they could definitely make something happen. I'm just saying there's room for some ideas here.
I like that a lot. I like that idea very much, because it's got a relevant tax on it. It's not just the front-loaded CP.
Exactly.
And on that note, mate, hopefully some positive sentiments at the end. I know it's been mixed with a lot of negativity, unfortunately, but we do try and be pretty honest with our feelings. But of course, once again, we like to give you guys something to work with at the very least, and hopefully there's some food for thought out there. Get your Baal Preds out. I mean, nobody thought that was going to be a thing. Get dust off your Sanguinor. Get your Baal Preds out. Enjoy what you can enjoy, and hopefully, sit tight, have some fun, Thank you very much, Sam, for joining us. We'll go over and record part 2. Anybody like to shout out before we sign out, mate?
Oh, man. I just wanted to actually shout out the entire Canadian and Toronto scene.
Nice. I love shout out.
I was going to say just a cheeky small one. I just think there's such a great community of such amazing, well-minded 40K players, and I think every single city, country should strive to keep on getting better together. So I mean, huge shout out to all the guys there.
Beautiful, love it, mate. And on that note, we're done. We're out of here. Thank you very much, guys. Come over and join us in part 2 at Out of War Down Under over on Patreon. See you there. Take care. Enjoy.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.